All right, what's up? Hello and welcome to Convict Inc. I'm your host, Robert Rosso, and tonight we're going to be talking about me. So, what my intent here is to do is to give my subscribers and viewers a little bit of background information about how I became a career drug offender. I figured the best way to do this would be to do it all in chronological order. That way down the line, when you guys hear prison stories about me and my thoughts and views on criminal justice reform, etc., you get a better understanding because you'll know who I am, where I came from, and how I got a life sentence and got to where I am today, here free. So let's get right into it. I was born and raised in San Pedro, California. I'm from what is considered a traditional home. That is, my mom and dad were married as I was growing up, and they're still married today. I was the youngest of 4 siblings, Italian Catholic family, and we grew up in, we were middle-class people, and we grew up in, a lower middle-class neighborhood, but a good neighborhood. I mean, it was, lower San Pedro, but it wasn't all bad. It was good. Anyway, so I first started getting into drugs at a pretty early age. My first recollection of smoking a joint was when me and one of my good friends, Frank, we were just kids. His older brother, had some pot, and we looked in his room and we stole it and stole a little bit and ended up smoking a joint. We were 8. I had older sisters, and my older sisters, were into smoking a little weed when they were 14, 15, 16, whatever. And I guess they found it funny sometimes to let me take a couple hits off a pipe or whatever, not knocking them. And I know they're going to be pissed. And I know somebody might, say, nah, that's not true, but whatever. That it is what it is. So I went to a Catholic school from 1st to 8th grade. And in 8th grade in Catholic school, you make your confirmation. The night that I made my confirmation, I was going to a party afterwards, and on that way up to the party, I was supposed to stop by and get a little bit of weed from my sister. My sister happened to be at her girlfriend's house at the time, and when me and my friend Mark went up there, they had a bunch of cocaine, and I was 13 at the time. To get to the point, we ended up snorting a couple lines of coke, and they gave us a little bit in our pockets to go, and we loved it. We loved it. And yeah, we're 13, but it is what it is. And also, remember, during this time, I was in Southern California, San Pedro, Port of Los Angeles, and it was the cocaine 80s. So, cocaine was trendy. It was everybody was kind of doing it thing. Although I will say not everybody at 13 and 14. So we were a bit young. That summer of my 8th grade year, I did cocaine, probably maybe once a week, once every other week. My godfather was 19 or 20 years old. And, he would take me out with him sometimes and give me a little blast or whatever. And when I started the 9th grade, that was when I would wake and bake, so to speak. That is, on the way to school every day, I would smoke a joint with me and my friends who were walking to school. As far as dealing, I had a sister that was with a guy who sold a lot of weed, not good weed, Mexican cess pot. And when I was 14, I began buying ounces, quarter pounds, and stuff like that from him. So that was pretty routine. That was weekly. So for kid 14, I made money, but I spent it, so I didn't save money. But I was definitely dealing drugs at that age. And that pretty much continued on for some years. The coke thing started when I was 15. I started getting coke, 8 balls, from sister. My sister's connections, I guess I should say. And, 8 ball, selling $20 worth to my friends and stuff like that. And of course, I didn't make really any profit off that because I was using. And back in those days, we're doing little crumbs and stuff like that. But before I turned 16, so I was, later part of 15, I began smoking cocaine. And that happened because one night I went to a friend's house to drop some off. Guys called me over there and went in, and there was a room full of my friends. And I don't know how they discovered it, but there was glass pipes out, and they were smoking coke, rocking it up themselves. Not going to buy crack from the projects or crack dealers or whatever you want to say, but nevertheless, we're smoking cocaine. Sometimes we were dropping it in ammonia, rocking it up that way. That's the purest form, and we did that, and that went on a good 6 months. And how that ended for me was there was a day that I was jonesing, took a couple hits, didn't have much money, didn't have many drugs left, and I was in the back of my van. I had a 1970 VW bus. I ditched school, and I'm in the back of my van hitting a glass pipe, and the pipe exploded and burned my lips. And I don't mean like caught fire, but, I got blisters on my lips because of it. And, I just broke down, and that was about it for the coke scene. I had some friends that, took me in and said, hey, let's go to Mexico surfing. And that's what I did. So there was a period of when I was 16, I don't remember touching any coke at all, but I did continue selling pot. Now, let me back up just a second. I started going to public school in the 9th grade. And what happened there was when you're in 8th grade at Catholic school, you have to take a test or aptitude test or whatever to make sure you can pass into the 9th grade. And I had planned on going to Mary Star, and I'm sure my family planned on sending me to Mary Star till I was in the 12th grade. And I failed. I failed that test. And the reason I failed, number one was I was stoned. And number two was because there was a big south swell. I was a diehard surfer, and I filled in a lot of little circles, kind of just half-assed went through the test. I took it for granted that I was going, and I didn't. And, starting 9th grade was like prison for me. And I say that because I was used to pretty much all mostly white Catholic school. And then I went to a public school system that had a lot of ethnicity in it. And, for me, it was a little bit scary and stuff, I'm going to be honest, but that's what it was. But, nevertheless, once I got there, it was all good. And in the 10th grade, went to San Pedro High School, and I would bring weed to school and sell weed. So I'd bring an ounce, I'd weigh them up in 8/8 in an ounce, and I'd bring bags to school and I'd sell them. And I can pretty much sell 8/8 every day, so I was making some money. Again, I wasn't saving it. I was spending it, beer, food, whatever with my buddies. And, just party all the time kind of thing. So I was 15 when I was in the 10th grade. I started school a year early for my age. And there was a morning that me and 5 other guys skipped first period, and we went and smoked a joint. The joint was some really stinky, smelly skunk weed. And as we were walking into the school, and it's a big high school, by the way, there was 2 narcotics officers, the campus narcotics officers that we called salt and pepper. One was black, one white. And as we walked past them, they smelt it. I mean, we smelled like a skunk peed on us, real Einsteins we all were. Anyway, they searched us, and of course I had 8/8 in my backpack, plus that skunk weed in a little film canister, and I got arrested, and that was ended up being my first felony drug conviction. Got probation, didn't do no time, but I was expelled from school, and from there, I went to Carson High School for a second. That didn't work out too well because I got into it over somebody's girlfriend, and ended up going to loser school. Now, a lot of you people know what loser school is, but there's a lot that don't. So that's continuation school. So that's all the kids that, screwed up real bad. And, we're just sitting in there going through the motions, kind of like the Federal Bureau of Prisons. Just send people in there, they go through the motions. They don't care what you do, just show up. So they can get a paycheck, and that's basically all it was it. And at that school, I I also met, a guy named Tommy, and he also sold cocaine, and so I started getting coke from Tommy, and started selling a little bit there. When I was 17, me and my junior high school sweetheart / high school sweetheart moved out on our own and got a place, and that's when I began, getting the quantity of drugs that I was selling grew, and that was pot. And then one day I ended up going to a guy's house that I was getting a bunch of weed from. His name was Tim, and he asked me what I can do with some cocaine. And I like I said, I had a bad experience with crack. I wasn't really into the coke thing at the time. Did it a few times after the crack, but I say crack, but we were cooking it up ourselves, baking soda, whatever. But I said, yeah, I'll see what I can do, because I had a pretty big weed clientele. And he dropped it on me, and I sold out. I sold out in 3 days, and that's what started me really selling coke. I tell everybody that, I had a really, really big clientele in San Pedro, and I could have made, tens of thousands of dollars when I was 17, 18 years old, but I didn't. I sold a lot, I moved a lot, but I did a lot, and as did my ex, and we had friends that did a lot, so we partied constantly. So I was the guy that would, buy up everything, put all the coke out at night, I referred to myself back then as a struggling drug dealer, because, and when I say, I would sometimes have $2,000-$3,000 in a night, but I never at that point in my life had over like 10 grand that was mine. Never. And, there was a guy that lived around the corner from me in San Pedro. He was about 10 years older or so. That was a real popular coke dealer in Pedro. And I don't think he would care. I'm just going to say rogue. And, I really idolize this guy. I mean, I don't know why. And I think right now he would say he didn't know why either, because, it's not like he had real nice stuff. He drove beat up old car, but he was just kind of fun to be around, him and his girl, Arnie. That's what I'll say. And, it was, I was happy being a drug dealer in San Pedro. I didn't care if people knew, It's like, there's Tom, he's a construction worker. There's Joe, he's a plumber. Hey, there's Robert, he's a drug dealer. Yay, it wasn't like it was in the movies, or people might assume. There was no violence. There wasn't no altercations. There was one time when I got myself in debt with a Hispanic guy, and who had some family members that were, pretty rough people. And I'm talking about a $3,000 drug debt. And that would be the worst thing that happened to me over drugs. And, again, I was a surfer. I was a middle-class kid in a middle-class or a blue-collar town. And I never dreamed that I would just keep on selling drugs. My goal, really, I used to tell my ex, was get enough money for a down payment in San Pedro and buy a beach house in Ensenada, Mexico. Because, again, like I said, I surfed. But that was just pipe dreams, because I couldn't save any money. You can't save money when you're doing as much coke as we did. So in December of 1989, I had a friend named Jimmy who lived on Catalina Island in Avalon, and his mom was the former mayor of Avalon. And I met Jimmy through one of my ex's friends. Her name was Helene, and Helene lived on the island and put me and Jimmy together. So I started bringing cocaine over there every couple of weeks, or he'd come over, whatever. So I think basically it was every week he was getting at least an ounce. The quantity grew at some point. But we would, meaning me and my ex, would go to Catalina. We would go there for the weekend, take a helicopter, boat back, whatever, and run around the island, or just board ourselves up in the hotel room. Yes, we had a kid when we were young. That was intentional. I was 17. She was 18. I just turned 18. She was about a year older than me. And we took our kid everywhere we went. Our kid grew up like we did. we were kids with a kid who were partiers, drug dealers, and that's just the way it was. Anyway, there was a weekend where I was in Catalina, and a girl caught my eye, and she kind of came on to me, and I made a little mental note of it to go back alone. And that's what happened. So it was December 11th or 12th, 1989. Jimmy called, needed something, and I intentionally caused a fight with my ex so she wouldn't want to go. And I went over to the island by myself. And normally, I didn't run around the island and party openly. When I say we went over there and had fun, it was usually we went in the back of the island, or we stayed away from the people. There's about 2,500 people that lived there at the time. 100 people that did drugs. I'm just making that number up. But the guy I was giving it to was the guy on the island. So people obviously were watching to see who he was getting it from. So he kept me sheltered, except for that one weekend. He couldn't. He tried to. What happened was I showed up and I was ready to party, and I was ready to find that girl. And when I got there, I rented a room from the best hotel room on the island, and went to a bar. Now, I was 18, just turned 19, had a fake ID, and Jimmy was pissed because I outed myself. I'm over there, I bring a bunch of Coke, and I got a San Pedro t-shirt on, and I'm at a bar, and I'm spending a bunch of money. So obviously, I'm the guy that brought Jimmy the dope. And anyway, that night, what I did was I got drunk, did a bunch of lines, and I decided to just have a big party at the room. And it was the Canyon Estates, I think it was. Like I said, at that time, it was the nicest place on the island. Maybe the Catherine might have been better. I'm not sure. But there was nobody at the hotel. There was literally maybe 2 guests in the whole hotel. In December's a dry season in Catalina. Not too many people go there. So I got 3 rooms, 2 rooms adjoining mine. So I got 3 rooms, opened them up, laid Coke out on the mirror, and there was just big ass party. I mean, it raged. All the first night into the second night, there was people smoking Coke in there, people jumping off the balcony into swimming pools. I mean, it was a rager, And again, these are all locals from the island, and I'm just a dumbass kid, not knowing any better. So we can all guess what happens, right? I'm passed out in bed on a Sunday morning, naked in bed by myself. I don't even hear the doors come open. I didn't hear the doors open. All I knew was there was 2 guns in my head like this, and they were screaming, "Brian Kane, Brian Kane, where's the drugs? Where's the drugs?" And I opened my eyes and I said, "My name's not Brian Kane, it's Robert Rosso, and the drugs are outside under the tiles." And I remember like one of them just put the gun down and started laughing. First of all, they had the wrong name on a warrant, I had the room's name under Brian Kane, which was a friend of mine, but that's the warrant they used to get into the room. And they thought my name was Brian. They didn't even know my name. And I immediately gave myself up and told them what the drugs were, just in one snap of the eye. I was up for a couple days. That's my excuse, but that's what happened. And when they took me down to the station, they knew that I was connected with Jimmy, but I wouldn't. They pointed some pictures, and I said, "I don't know what you're talking about. I don't know who the guy is." They pointed a couple other people. I said, "I don't know. I don't know nothing." Okay, so what they did was they sent me back to the LA County jail system in Catalina. It's all part of LA County. So they threw me on a helicopter, and it was one of those Army helicopters. I don't know too much about them. The doors slid open on the sides. And what these a-holes did was they put a life ring around your neck, in case the helicopter crashed and you went down. They put that around my neck and said, "If we crash, pull this cord," as they handcuffed my hands behind my back and strapped me into a seat. And then they, commenced to flying around like this and went over my apartment on the mainland, which was in Redondo Beach at the time, and we're, just having a great time. It was crazy. So Out of that arrest, I ended up getting what's called a 4-year joint suspension in California. It was 9 grams I got busted with. That's what it was. There was residue all over the room. There was paraphernalia. There was glass pipes that people were smoking. But that's what I got charged with. Carried up to 4 years. So what they did was they gave me a 4-year joint suspension. And that is, they gave me 4 years, they suspended 3, and they gave me a year in the LA County jail system. At the time, the LA County jail system was really overcrowded. So I ended up doing 62 or 63 days. And that was in the summer of 1990. When I got out, the night that I got out, it was in August. Yeah, it was August. It was just a little after midnight. She was my fiance at the time, but like I said, we were together since junior high school. She picked me up from the jail. I jumped in the car and I went straight to Rogue's house, and he hooked me up with a couple ounces, and it was on and popping, like nothing happened. And it wasn't long that I was on probation. I had drug testing, so I think out of 6 drug tests, I failed 4. And I did everything I could. There was the water trick back then. There was drinking fruit pectin. And the times that I did pass the test, really, it was, I flushed my system. I was dirty. I was never clean. But there was a day on the 4th dirty that my probation officer, his name was Bernstein. I'll never forget him. Room full of guys that were all probationers. And he said, "Hey, what's up with you?" He said, "You got another dirty?" And I said, "No, I didn't." He said, "Yeah, just what's going on with you? You going to go to rehab again, or what are you going to do?" And I said, "Man, I didn't piss dirty." So he said, "If you lie to me one more time, I'm sending you to jail." And I said, I take asthma medication." And he picked up the phone and he called, and it just so happened that the chain just left. The chain is the bus to the LA County jail. So I was in the Long Beach courthouse at the time. That's where the probation officer is for guys in San Pedro, in Long Beach courthouse. So he couldn't lock me up, didn't put me in the local jail. So he said, just be waiting for a court date. Well, I didn't wait. I knew I had an automatic 4 years coming. So we moved, and we lived right above the Lomita Sheriff Station. And I mean right over the Lomita Sheriff Station for a year. We later moved down the street. I didn't slow up one bit. I kept dealing drugs. And again, I want to emphasize, I had a huge clientele. I had a lot of money coming in, especially on the weekends and rainy days, because for some reason people like to do a lot of cocaine on rainy days. And I stayed broke most of the time. And I mean, I remember times borrowing money from my family just to pay the rent. So, and that was because we were doing so much coke and partying so hard. So I did work in my life. And at 15, I worked in the grocery store, bagging groceries. 16 to 17, I worked at an auto parts store. And then late 17, I ended up joining the labor's union. My dad was a business manager for a local labor's hall, 802 in Wilmington, and also a California representative. So my dad was a bigwig in the labor's union, and pretty much all I had to do was not get in any trouble, and I would have been my dad. My future was planned for me as a kid. It was handed to me, and I messed it up because of drugs. So I was on a job one day, and I didn't like working because it interfered with my partying, it interfered with surfing, and it interfered with making money, because I made more money staying home than I did working. And I got hurt on the job, and I collected workman's comp. So I was getting about $1,400 from workman's comp every month, and me and my ex decided to move to Arkansas, where I had family ties. And the goal was to get cleaned up and change our lives, and just didn't work out that way. In fact, when I got to Arkansas, I found out that the price of cocaine was 3 times the amount that it was in California. So you can imagine what happened now. Yeah, started making coke runs to California. And when I say coke runs, me and my ex and our 2 kids load them up in the car, run straight to California, sometimes stay a couple days, sometimes stay if it was the holidays, see the family, but we'd run out there and run back. And, it was just party all the time. Every night we snorted cocaine every single night. We didn't miss a beat. And then I started using the airplane. Sometimes I'd go with my ex. One or two times she went out and grabbed some, flew right back. And in August of 1992, which was, we moved back to Arkansas in November, Thanksgiving 1991. So August 92, what is that, 7 months later? I come off the airport at Fort Smith Airport. It's a small airport. And got in my truck, threw my suitcase in the back of the truck and got on the interstate, and boom, lights all around me. What had happened was federal agents and the Sebastian County 12th Judicial Task Force out of Fort Smith had got a tip that I was bringing drugs in via the airplane. When I landed, they had dogs sniff my suitcase, and the dogs missed the sniff because I had it wrapped in bounced dryer sheets. Now, when I say that I brought drugs in a suitcase, here's what I did. I wrapped it up and I literally threw it in a suitcase. There was no locks on the suitcase. It was drugs in a suitcase. Now, times are different, but that's what I did, and I made lots of trips that way. So also I was late coming home. So normally I'd go for a couple days. There were sometimes I went out there and came right back within a couple hours. Paid cash, different times. There were different times. And on this particular trip, I was supposed to do a round trip and end up shacking up in a hotel room with somebody for a couple days. So I'd been up for a few days, and I was drinking on the airplane from California to Texas, and from Texas to Fort Smith. And law enforcement got tipped that I was drinking because I caused a big scene on the flight from Texas to Fort Smith. They had like a 3-drink minimum, and I wanted more, and I kind of, I was loud about it. I was an arrogant prick. And so what they did was they found out, once the dog missed the sniff at the airport, they found out that I had been drinking. So they pulled me over under the false pretense that I was drunk. And, I probably had enough beer to be drunk, but I was I'd been on the airplane. I always brought personal Coke, and I'd go sniff it in the bathroom. Sometimes I'd sniff it, just turn my head and sniff it in the seats, just depended. And so I got arrested. Here in Arkansas, a lot of times they bring you straight to the narcotics station, and they did that to me too. So when I got in the narcotics station, there was Smith, Alexander, Howard, and a guy that I'll never forget named Captain Glenn Yates. Now, I was 22 years old at the time. They asked me, so they're talking to me. I've got a couple nice guys. They're, hey, Mr. Rosso, so you're from California, being nice guys. And they fill out the Miranda form. They said, here, sign this. And I said, no, I'm not going to sign it. And they said, you're not. Now, if I sign the Miranda form, anything I say can be held against me. I knew that. So I made the comment was, no, I'm not going to do it because I've been through this shit. Well, when I said no, we got the bad cop. Came roaring, jumped up off his seat and roared. That was Glenn Yates. Threw a chair across the room, all this dramatics, and said, you're going to go, do you realize how much time you're going to get here? You're not in California anymore. And I just looked at him, and he says, and you just admitted to us that you'd been through this before, so you're a habitual offender. And I didn't even know what that means. And he said, you're in Arkansas now. You're going to get 40 years with 40 N-words going up in your ass 40 times a day. It was like, did this guy just really say this to me? But they were trying to scare me, obviously. And I just said, bring me to a cell. And I made bond. Luckily for me, at that time, I was pending, I told you I was on workman's comp. I was pending back surgery. I really did have a back injury. If I went under the knife, I'd get more money on my lawsuit. Okay, but I did have a back injury, so I was able to stay out of prison on I forgot what the bond's called, for over a year, and ultimately what I ended up getting is a 30-year suspended sentence. 30 years. 30. So at Arkansas, they like to put a lot of time over your head, 40 years, 30 years, 20 years. They gave me 30 years suspended, and I ended up doing an actual year in the jail. Now, I told you I ran from California, so California had caught up with me, and I got, my family, I should say, got a good lawyer out of California who was able to run my California charge concurrent. However, the time I did in Arkansas did not satisfy the 4-year sentence in California, which on 4 in California at that time, you're supposed to do 2 years and 2 months, and I did a year. So once I got done with my sentence, they put a fugitive warrant on me, or a CDC, California Department of Correction warrant. Anyway, what they needed to do was, if you fight extradition, they have to get a governor's warrant to come get you. And I was fighting extradition. So I got let out and put on parole. I came home to a bit of a mess personally. That is, my ex-wife announced that she wanted to separate for a while. And, well, you know, I had some cocaine put away when I went away, and I had some money put away. And, you know, it was a bit tough at first, but I started going to bars, dating, 24 years old, fresh out of the joint. So, you know, I bounced back. 60 days from the time I was released, I was arrested. And on this arrest, I was totally innocent. My ex-wife or her boyfriend or somebody related to that circle, because I don't know the truth. I've talked to my ex-wife since. She swears she didn't do it, so I don't care anymore. But the fact is that somebody planted drugs on me, and I got locked up. And I was really, really bitter about it. And it sucks being set up. It sucks when you're totally innocent. And I ended up doing, well, from November till April. And when I got released, that's when I met who would become my second wife. And the way that happened, as I explained yesterday, was she was my pen pal. And you know what? I'm going to stop right there. So, first bust happened in California. Second bust happened in Arkansas. A parole violation. And then I got out. And that's when me and Barbara got together.